I have been driving city buses for over 15 years. In that time, I have seen all types of passengers. The drunk ones who can barely stay awake, the loud ones who argue with everyone, and the quiet ones who stare out the window like they are somewhere else entirely. But nothing prepared me for what happened on one freezing night last winter. I was working the late shift on Route 17. The night was unusually cold, with heavy snow starting to fall, coating the empty streets in a thick white layer. By the time my bus reached the industrial side of town, it was almost 1 a.m. The street lights were dim, the area completely deserted. Or so I thought. As I approached an old stop that no one ever uses, my headlights illuminated a man standing there. He didn't wave, didn't move. Just stood perfectly still, as if he had been waiting a very long time. He wore an old tattered coat that looked like it belonged in another era, and held a small leather suitcase at his side. When he stepped into the light, I saw his face clearly. It was pale, almost gray, with eyes that seemed sunken yet oddly sharp at the same time. He climbed aboard slowly. The cold air that clung to him lingered even after the doors closed. Without saying a single word, he dropped a coin into the fare box. The coin was old, much older than anything I had seen in circulation. I was about to comment on it, but something in his expression stopped me. He walked to the very back of the bus, sat down, and placed his suitcase beside him. I tried to ask him where he was headed, but he didn't respond. He just sat there, staring straight ahead, unmoving. As the bus rumbled along the empty streets, I found myself glancing in the rearview mirror far more often than usual. Every time, he was sitting there, still as a statue. At one point, I stopped at a red light and looked back again. This time, his head was slightly tilted toward me, and I swear I saw the faintest smile on his lips. My stomach tightened, but the light turned green and I forced myself to keep driving. The rest of the route felt like it lasted forever. The city seemed quieter than usual, like even the wind had stopped to listen. When I reached the final stop, the end of the line, I parked and stood up. I turned toward the back and said, "This is the last stop, sir." No answer. I walked down the aisle, my footsteps sounding too loud in the silence. When I reached his seat, my heart dropped. He was gone. The seat was empty, but the small leather suitcase remained. Cautiously, I picked it up and opened it. Inside were black and white photographs, old and worn at the edges. They showed the same man at various bus stops, each photo from a different time period. Some were so old they looked like they had been taken decades ago. My hands trembled as I reached the last photograph. It showed him sitting in the very seat he had occupied moments ago. But what froze me in place was the reflection in the bus window. It was me, standing at the front, staring into the mirror with a terrified expression. The lights inside the bus flickered violently. I turned, and in the mirror above me, I saw him sitting in the back again, that faint, unnatural smile on his face. Before I could move, the lights cut out completely. When they came back on a few seconds later, he was gone. The suitcase was gone too. I drove back to the depot in silence, my hands shaking on the wheel. I didn't tell a soul about what happened because who would believe me? But every now and then, when I'm driving the late route and the streets are empty, I catch a glimpse of a figure sitting in the back row. Sometimes it is just for a second, just enough to make me question myself. But deep down, I know it's him, watching, waiting. And one night I think he is going to stay. I have worked at the city bus company for over 20 years, mostly handling dispatch. I monitor the routes, watch the GPS signals, and make sure every bus gets back to the depot safely. Over time, I have seen a lot of strange things, but nothing like what happened with Route 96. Route 96 was unlike the others. It only ran at night, cutting through the old industrial sector before winding into the outskirts where the road is surrounded by nothing but woods. Most drivers hated it. They said the area felt wrong, like it was swallowing the bus whole. Some even claimed they heard voices over the radio when no one else was speaking. Management brushed it off as nerves or bad equipment. A few winters ago, we hired a new driver named Eric. He was young, eager, and didn't buy into the ghost stories the veterans told him. On his first night, he laughed when they warned him to stay alert on Route 96. "It's just a road," he said, smirking. I wish he had been right. That night, I was on dispatch watching the monitors. I could see his bus moving along the route in real time, the little green dot creeping across the map. Everything looked normal for the first hour. Then something strange happened. The GPS showed his bus veering off the road like it was cutting straight through the woods. I grabbed the radio and asked if everything was all right. His voice came through, calm at first. "Yeah, just following the route." I told him he was off track, but he insisted the road was clear ahead. The green dot kept moving through areas where there were no roads at all. The deeper it went, the worse the static on the radio became. I tried to call him again, but all I got was a faint whisper, almost like someone else was speaking over him. I could not make out the words, but it chilled me to the bone. Then I heard Eric scream. It was quick, sharp, and then the line went dead. The GPS froze. The green dot blinked a few times and then disappeared completely. We sent patrols out that night, scouring the woods where the signal was lost. They found nothing. No tire tracks, no sign of the bus, not even broken branches where something that big would have passed. It was as if it had vanished into thin air. Days turned into weeks and still no trace. The bus was gone. Eric was gone. The company tried to cover it up, saying there must have been a malfunction, but every driver knew the truth. Route 96 takes what it wants. The scariest part is what happened a month later. Late one night, when the station was quiet, I heard the radio crackle to life on its own. A voice came through, faint and distorted, but I swear it was Eric. He was crying, repeating the same words over and over. "It's not a road. Don't let them take the route." I never heard him again after that. The bus never returned. To this day, we do not run Route 96 anymore. But sometimes when I stay late and check the GPS, I see a green dot moving slowly through the woods where no road exists. It disappears if I blink, but I know what I saw. Whatever took that bus is still out there, waiting for the next driver who thinks it's just a road.